Hello, and welcome to my 2026 TED Talk. I am Paxton, as you all know, and as you also all know, I'm a swimmer. So, of course, my topic is going to be about swimming. So, my question is, how should adolescent swimmers be eating during taper and meets to maximize event performance? But before I actually get into that question, I've got some things to talk about. If I click the middle button, does that skip slides, right?
Middle button's laser pointer.
Oh, okay, cool. We all know who this guy is, Michael Phelps.
Oh, yeah.
20-time Olympic medalist, 23-time gold medalist. But during his Beijing 2008 games, it was quoted in the Olympic Games that he was eating 10,000 calories a day. That's insane. That is a lot of food, especially compared to the average American who eats only 3,000 calories a day. That's 3 times what the average is. Now, the reason that a swimmer like him would need to eat that much is because swimming has some of the highest energy expenditure of any sport in the world. For me specifically, I eat a lot of food as well. For my breakfast, a few days ago, this is changed from the last time I did this. I had 4 eggs, 2 slices of toast, and a Chobani yogurt. And then I had 2 Zia burritos with double ground beef, double cheese, double beans, double rice. And then I ate this before I could take a photo of it. I had 2 steak burritos along with the rest of the steak fajitas. And throughout the day, I had a bag of peanuts and 3 protein bars. That's a lot of food.
How big of a bag?
So the reason that I have to eat all this food is because my body needs to pull macronutrients from it. So the 3 macronutrients here, and there's actually 4, protein, carbs, fats, and alcohol, but I'm not going to be talking about that one. Proteins are the building blocks of your muscles and your skin and your organs. They're found in meat, of course, along with beans and lentils, eggs, and spinach and mushrooms. And your body utilizes them to build up your organs, your skin, your muscles, as well as repair muscles after exercise. During exercise, your muscles create micro tears, and the protein helps to rebuild those up. Now, the second one is carbohydrates. There's 2 types of carbohydrates, simple and complex carbs. Simple carbs give you immediate energy. They're things like fruits and gummies and things like that, while complex carbs give you less energy, but it's extended for a longer period of time. Those are things like starches, like pasta, rice, bread, things that use a starch as some type of base. And then the third and final one here is fats. Now, there is a lot of stigma about fats being bad. We don't want to be fat, things like that, but fats are very important. They're utilized in 2 main things. First is the storage of energy in a thing called lipids inside of your body. They're stored as energy, and your body can use them in a time of need. They also pad your organs for impact and things like that and keep things running a little smoother. Now, the next thing you guys need to understand before we get all the way into this topic is taper and meets. So a taper is a 1 to 2 week piece right before a meet that works to decrease the total yardage but maintaining the intensity of a practice. The reason that you do this is so that athletes are ready to race at their meet, so that they are both building up their glycogen stores and mentally preparing for their races. A meet is a 2 to 4 day event with about 7 to 8 races depending on the person that you race in a prelims and a finals section. The prelims being in the morning for qualifying and the finals being in the night for placement. So now that we understand a little bit more about taper and meets and macronutrients, let's get into it. Specifically for taper. During taper, athletes need to be able to both fuel and recover properly in order to perform at their best. A way to do this, first off, with carbohydrates. As I said just a little bit before, athletes need to build the glycogen stores in both their muscles and their internal organs like their livers. A way to do this is, well, eating enough carbohydrates so that you're actually able to refuel and then overfuel. According to the Mikkel Love, one of the nutritionists that I talked to for both my senior project along with this, who I've been working with for maybe 3 years now, she says that athletes need to be eating 10 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body mass. That's insane. For somebody of my size, I weigh 175 pounds, that's 79 kilograms. That is about 800 grams of carbohydrates. That is a full-time job to be able to eat that much carbs. That is insane. I think it's around 20 full bowls of pasta, for comparison, Now, I'm not saying that the average person needs to be eating that much food.
Holy mackerel.
But for athletes and swimmers like this, during a point in their taper, they need to be doing this. Now, this graph down here shows that simple and complex carbs. So the simple carb is this, this red line here. It gives a crazy spike in energy right here, but it drops off around the hour-and-a-half mark, maybe an hour and 35 minutes. Then the complex carbs have less overall energy, but provide longer energy. That's why you need both of them as an athlete. Now moving on to proteins and fats. Proteins. Swimmers should aim to eat around 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, similar to that carbohydrate thing that I just talked about. For somebody like me, again, that would be around 95 to 135 grams of protein. A chicken breast on average has about 42, so for reference, I would need to be eating 2 to 3 of those per day to actually hit my protein intake. Now, again, proteins are so important for building up each part of your body, but the timing of how you actually eat these are super important, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. Fats are that third micronutrient, and they make up around 20 to 30% of your total caloric intake for a day. Now, they provide energy and vitamins, and athletes need to be eating these because they're utilized in combination with carbohydrates as the main energy source for physical activity. So how about during meets, beyond just taper? So during meets, athletes need to both fuel and recover in order to perform at their peak for the whole meet. I'm going to tell you this awful quote real quick, but I'm going to break it down here. The implementation of strategic temporal nutrition interventions can support and enhance training prescription and adaptation as well as acute event-specific performance. None of those words make any sense to anyone. So for that to be a little easier to understand, it means that athletes need to be eating in either things called phases, which is what I'm going to be talking about, but really they need to be timing the things that they're eating to be eating the right foods and the right meals at the right times so that they're fueled properly. So let's start with the first phase. The first phase is your breakfast. Yes, this is a silly AI-generated image, but things like eggs, bananas, fruits like that, yogurt, granola are great. You really need to be eating as many carbs as you possibly can. Having carbohydrates in your body is what will allow you to perform. Now, you don't need to be eating a whole bunch of proteins and fats in the morning in the same way. Your body will divert energy from digestion to physical output in your muscles, which is what causes people to throw up after exercises. I've done this. I'm sure other athletes have done this. It is no fun to throw up after an exercise. So the real thing you need to be eating in the morning is these carbohydrates. Good things are, right, again, those, but you can also drink them in things like like sports drinks and things like that. Now, the second and fourth phase, I know this is a weird combo, but this happens during the prelims racing and during the finals racing. So, again, another silly AI-generated image, but it needs to be things that are, again, high in carbohydrates, but are easy to digest. You don't want to be having your body full of things, and you want to be eating based off of the point in time you are at the meet. You want to be eating before your races, after your warm-up, and then in between each race. According to Abby Knox, who was on that book a few slides back, she's an RD and wrote this book called Eat Right, Swim Faster, pretty on the nose, but she recommends that drinking a sports drink with electrolytes and certain sugars immediately after each event and during a cool down will maximize event performance. I thought that was very interesting. I personally drink a lot of electrolytes and things like that, but I've never had the intake of carbohydrates through a liquid, and the liquid state is way easier for your body to digest. Now, phase 3. This is by far the most crucial phase. This is super important. This is your dinner along with your in-between prelims and finals section. Now, what you should be eating here is proteins and fats. This is refilling your body after a full day of racing, and you need to be able to recover your muscles with that protein to rebuild from your micro tears and your muscle fibers, and you need to be eating vegetables and fiber so that your body is able to take in that protein and utilize it more effectively. Beyond just eating, we need to be drinking and hydrating properly. I thought this quote was amazing. A 5% loss in water can drop your ability to work by 30%. In easier terms, if I was 150 pounds and 60% water, a small drop in 5% of water volume is 4.5 pounds. That's a noticeable difference. You're gonna feel worse, you're gonna perform worse. Now, James Slaughterback says that athletes should be drinking 2 cups of water before and after each type of exercise. It is very hard to get athletes, and specifically swimmers, to drink enough water due to the fact that they're constantly in water and their body and brain are not telling them that they're dehydrated. Because they first won't notice that they're sweating, and second, because they're in the water, a lot of athletes have quoted that they feel hydrated even if they actually haven't drank enough water. Now also, according to the National Institute of Health, athletes who consume electrolyte beverages, both before and during exercise, will avoid muscle cramps drastically. Cramping sucks, especially during racing. If you do it beforehand, you can get over it, but if it happens in a race, that can be detrimental to your performance. Having the right electrolyte balance along with water intake can keep your body from cramping. Electrolytes specifically allow your muscles to contract. That's what you need to be able to do to actually race, move, walk, do all your things. And they also keep the fluid balance inside of your muscles even, which helps to flush out lactic acid for when you get tired during a race. Now, of course, what I've been talking about is mainly swimmers. We know that. My thesis was mainly on swimmers, but a lot of this is able to cover other people besides just swimmers. Youth athletes as a whole, especially aerobic athletes like runners, bikers, track athletes, and things of the like. These athletes don't need to be eating in the same way because they don't taper, they don't do meets in the same way that we do. But they still need to be focusing on the foods that they're eating, intaking enough carbohydrates during, before, and after racing in order to perform as good as they need to. Then for regular people, like a majority of you guys who may not be in a competitive athlete standing, you do not need to be eating that 800 grams of carbohydrates each day. That's not important for you guys to be eating. But you should be focusing on eating the correct macronutrients at the right times. Eating a snack right before you go on a run, or if you're up in the gym, if you bring something with you, or eat enough protein and fats after your race, after your workout, you will feel better. You will do better, you will perform better, and you will get more out of each exercise that you do. This is me, of course, over there, and this is my swim team right here, the Durango Swim Club. These are 2, and my coach, of the people that I ran my senior experiment on. I tested what they were eating for 4 weeks, controlled it, and had them run races for a certain amount of time. I couldn't get all the data in here because it's maybe the size of this room, but they had improved performance based off of the things that they ate. We started at a certain level beyond where I had changed what they were eating, and they dropped down and maintained faster times throughout the entire time, throughout 4 weeks. Multiple of them actually stated to me that they felt better in practice and better at races, and they continued to do the things that I'm telling them to do. This little chart here is me specifically. Now, these numbers might not mean anything to anyone besides me and Lori, but this 144.3 is my 200 freestyle, my best event, in September 28th. This is my 200 freestyle in March 27th. This was pretty recent. Now, this is a 4-second drop and a 4% time change over 6 months. That's a lot for swimming. This research works. Eating the right things will make you go faster. Thank you.